Hey everybody, welcome back to Tathaastu. Today I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts on Salaar, which was released in 2023 and was one of the last movies I saw of 2023. Um, Among the magnum opuses of 2023, Salaar probably stands in the middle. I think it's a very expansive universe written quite poorly or executed quite poorly in terms of screenplay. I think Prashanth Neel had so many ideas in this movie that he spends a lot of time trying to build up to Khansar instead of just introducing Khansar to us directly and making Khansar the protagonist of the movie and all of the characters around as people who affect Khansar or are affected by Khansar, the fictional world that Prashanth Neel has introduced. I think it's a fantastic idea in terms of just making such a huge promise of a fictional world and using that fictional world as the premise for a story between two friends. I think it could have been so much better in terms of just establishing the reasons as to why Khansar is so powerful. In terms of the movie, Prashanth Neel does spend a lot of time just creating establishing shots after establishing shots, which are largely slow motions. And the problem is that you can't, after a point, feel very comfortable realizing that a particular character is coming through. You pretty much know Prabhas is going to beat everybody, beat all the bad guys, do a lot of things, right? But I think the fact that there's so many establishment shots for each of his action blocks or each of his movements as a whole, I think becomes very repetitive to a point of sort of boredom. But I won't call it boredom because Prabhas looks $1,000,000. He's excellent in terms of just carrying that rugged look and that deep sorrow and deep emotions within himself. I think he does a very, very good job. But the problem is also that Prabhas almost is in the same range, right? Like throughout the movie, he is morose, he is sad, he is focused. These are the only three sort of emotions that he plays with. I think Prabhas has so much more range. You've seen that in Bahubali, you've seen that in his earlier movies in Telugu. I think Prabhas deserves a much more expansive grip on his character. He needs to be given more scope to act. Prabhas is now being reduced to that of an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of zone where he is just the muscle man of the industry. I don't think Prabhas is that. Prabhas is a very accomplished actor who can be given a lot more or who can give a lot more to the screen as well. And this in turn affects his characterization with Ishwari Rao, who plays his mother. It affects his characterization with Prithviraj, who plays his antagonist, who plays the antagonist, but also his best friend. So I think the nature of this relationships that Salaar wants to talk about doesn't get explored very often because it doesn't really give a lot of scope to just character building. It just gives enough scope for just building up these characters as huge, vast people with huge, vast importance, but rather doesn't really spend time making those characters viable to us, right? But that isn't the zone to a large extent in Salaar because you pretty much know what you're expecting when you come to Salaar because you've seen KGF. You know that there is on your face emotions, there is not a lot of scope for subtlety. So you do spend time in exploring how this subtlety can be sort of pushed forward. But Prashanth Neel does not really feel that there is a requirement for subtlety. So Salaar is just in your face to a large extent. Even the songs, the placement of the songs are not very subtle. But the characters are very, very good in terms of who they look like in the movie. Prabhas is excellent. Prithviraj is brilliant at being morose. But the problem is the range, right? There's not enough range for these characters to sort of develop. And I do believe that while this was part one, there could have been an exploration of their relationship to a deeper level which would then translate into higher stakes in the second Salaar, right? So this is something that I thought would have been much, much better in terms of just writing. In terms of the music and the technical department, music was brilliant by Ravi Basrur. It is really, really great, except that there are some portions of the movie where the music sort of like distances you away from the movie. It sort of like takes away from the narrative. But otherwise, it's excellent music as such. The technical stuff, cinematography, you're not going to expect anything less than brilliance in a Prashanth Neel movie because Prashanth Neel spent so much time on the technical aspects of things. But the only gripe which I have is that the screenplay lets down a lot of excellence that comes up in this movie. And I do hope that part two can bring up so many more emotions and so much more writing to this particular story and to this world. That's it from me with regard to Salaar. Hope you had a great week and a great new year. We'll catch up again sometime soon. Bye bye.